following podcast is a TJ DeSantis production. Comments, questions, and inquiries can be sent to DeSantisProd@gmail.com.
Are you talking shift? We are. It's time for the We're Talking Shift podcast. Now. Here to talk shift are your hosts, Loree Bischoff and Candice Parisi. We're talking shift.
Hello, I am Candice Parisi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Loree Bischoff, and we're talking shift. So today, our guest today is not Jim Carrey.
But Jim, if you're listening right now, my phone number is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He was gonna be. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that Jim Carrey would be a great guest. Would be a great guest.
So that was our version of like an affirmation, right? So it's gonna be.
He's the king of affirmations.
Yes, he is. He is.
He's into that law of attraction shit for sure.
Right.
I saw him on Oprah. What did you see?
Yeah. I saw him on Oprah a long time ago. I don't know, 1986, I think. Sometime in the mid or late 80s. I don't remember exactly. I think that's when it was. Anyway, but I saw him on there talking about the law of attraction, which we've talked about before, and what stuck with me was when he said that he had written himself, back when he was still starting out and getting going, before he was a big name, he had written himself a blank check for $10 million, for services rendered. So it's basically his version of, an affirmation or a vision board type of action, and tucked that away. And then he dated it so that he expected to receive that by a particular date. And then, of course, as the story goes, he did. And that was something that he was sharing on Oprah, which is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. I'm into Jim Carrey. I've always been into him. I think that he's gutsy. Mm-hmm. He has a new show. What's it called? It's
called Kidding. Mm-hmm. I've seen it.
Yeah, I saw the first episode. It's like he's a sweet guy, right? He's
Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, he's like Mr. Rogers, but he wants to tell the kids the truth about things that are really hard because he's having hard times in his life. I think that's an interesting show.
It is. I just there's only 2 episodes out. It's new. I just watched the second one a couple of nights ago, and he's like Mr. Rogers with really bad hair, and but he's like this super sweet, lovable, nerdy but big heart kind of, a world of wisdom in his heart and his head, and how he's trying to navigate some pretty upsetting and I would say upsetting is the light way to put it. Some pretty serious stuff that's happened in his life, that people have to deal with. So trying to do that in a way that isn't totally rocking his world and keep it together, and yet be honest and share what's going on with his TV audience. It's very interesting. I'm curious to see how this is going to evolve. He is an amazing performer. I've always been a fan too. I mean, I was a fan from the very first time I saw him. I think the first time I saw him was Ace Ventura. I can't remember if it was I think it was Ace Ventura, and I fell in love with him.
Yeah, I think that every single movie, I've seen all of his movies. I'm a fan, and every single one of his movies has some kind of underlining thing that is very gutsy. I think he's always pushing some sort of envelope when it comes to you either being more comfortable with yourself, with you growing, with you seeing the world differently. He is always pushing that envelope. I think that everything he does right now, he's making a bunch of art. Like he's being a very eccentric arts guy. He goes in all of these different directions without giving a fuck about what people think. And I think that's interesting. I think so many people, especially in show business, can stay in that cookie cutter type of space where you're safe. And he pushes that safe boundary over and over again. I think he's interesting.
Yeah, I think so too. I think especially when you're anyone that's in the public eye and you no longer have the luxury of anonymity. If you want to do something that's outside the norm, that is taking a risk of being criticized, then that takes a lot of chutzpah. And I think that a lot of people that are, in that position where everybody's in your business and everybody knows what's going on, or at least thinks they do, on the surface, you take a risk when you're going to do something that is maybe not acceptable to everybody, because you're gonna risk being called a wing nut, or you're crazy, you're losing it, you're out of touch, whatever. And for some people, that even means taking a risk with being paid to do what they do. I mean, I think that's why even a lot of celebrities are quiet about their political beliefs, because if you come out, you're taking a risk and it could impact your work. And so I think it is really bold of anyone to come out and go, you know what, I've been on a spiritual journey, for example, as we're talking about Jim Carrey, and be able to be okay with the stuff that's going to be said about them. Shirley MacLaine did the same thing back in the 80s when she was on her, quest to her spiritual awakening, and she dared to put it out there to the public, and wow, did she get hammered.
She sure did. And she put herself out there, though, and she said, I don't care. And you have to have that thick skin. And I think a lot of people don't have that thick skin. And Shirley MacLaine did it. She walked the Camino de Santiago. She put all of this very foo-foo-y spiritual stuff that people didn't get yet way back in the day. And people were like, oh, I don't think I'm into you. But she didn't care. She put herself out there more. I remember you and I, we were sitting in a restaurant and in Arizona. And I had been traveling a bunch and kind of doing a bunch of other stuff, and hadn't been working as an intuitive, as a psychic for a little while. I took a little break for myself, and I wanted to come back to it. I was ready. I was ready to go for it again. And I was sitting there with you, and I remember this moment where I said, I want, this is what I am. I'm a psychic, and I'm ready to come back into the world and show my gifts off and be who I am. The thing is that I have a problem with the word psychic. You remember that conversation?
Yeah, not word for word like you seem to, but yes, I remember having the conversation.
Yeah, and you were like, why? What is it that you have a problem with? What is it that you have? I said, well, the word psychic. I mean, people have all sorts of bullshit, but psychics are, all sorts of things right now. And so mostly negative. And so maybe I wanted to play off of it and say intuitive counselor or something else. And there was a feeling, a push into, well, why don't you just say what you are, and who cares what other people think? And I think that in my profession, there is a lot of judgment, and I simply do not care. And I think that at that point, I was like, all right, what do I do here? But I quickly got to the place where I found my guts, and I was like, you know what? People are going to judge. People are going to have all sorts of things to say. And this is still who I am. So this is it. And I think that that's where a lot of people have to come. You don't have to be famous to come to that place. You could really want to be something, and your family doesn't accept you, or your spouse doesn't accept you, or the small group of friends that you have doesn't accept you, or the whole world doesn't accept you, but you do it anyway because your heart tells you to.
Yeah. Yeah. And it takes, I think it takes a lot of courage to yield to the calling of your heart when you know that you're going to be judged and you're going to experience disapproval. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people. A lot of us at one point in our lives, we give in. We don't want the judgment. We don't want the disapproval. We want to fit in. We want everyone's approval. So a lot of times we give in to some of those things that are really calling us to do something or to say something or to become something. And it takes a lot of courage. And just imagine some of the greatest masters and teachers and leaders that we know of throughout history. The same thing happened to them. And wow, where would we be if they caved and didn't, do what they were called to do? Just imagine all of the amazing, words of wisdom and movements that maybe wouldn't have happened at that time because people were too afraid to follow the calling of their heart.
And it doesn't have to make sense to anybody
Right.
else, right? It doesn't have to be something that anybody else has ever said is okay. You just follow your own truth. And I think that in following your own truth, the more that I do that in my life, and I feel like I fully do that, the more I do that in my life, the more like life kind of takes care of me, and it's okay. It's okay. Somebody's judgment. I think that it's in seeing people's judgment and going, okay, so they judge as much as they do because they judge themselves first. People treat other people how they treat themselves. And so it's in feeling sorry for that and going, okay, I understand where you're coming from. I don't take it personally. This is still who I am, and moving forward in your life. And I think that we can get stuck in our own stuff and not do that and forget that. And
yeah, well, I think when we're not able at whatever speed to follow what it is pulling at us or calling to us, that being stuck definitely manifests itself in some sort of unwellness. And it might be physical unwellness. It might be emotional unwellness. There's going to be something that is out of harmony with you as an individual if you are suppressing what your soul is yearning to do in this life.
Some people even commit suicide for that shit. Like, people feel like really like they're gay or they're transsexual or they're all of these different things that are happening in life right now, and they can't be that. And so they feel constricted and they feel judged and they feel lost and they don't know what to do next, and there's nobody rallying for them. And so I think that that's hard for people because people have a hard time just simply rallying for themselves. They need a cheerleading team. Human beings need people.
Yeah, of course. And that's a sad thing when because of our either the way you've been conditioned as you were growing up, or from the people that influence you, or societal beliefs and values. But either way, whatever those influences are that have caused you to become so disconnected with your own self, that you've lost that ability to, or maybe you never had it. Maybe it wasn't, taught to you from the beginning, but you've lost the ability to love yourself enough and to care yourself enough to be, to care about yourself enough, to be selfish enough to do the things that feed you without being concerned about how it's going to come off to anybody else. That's that's a very tricky road for so many of us to navigate. And, it's, but it's something that if we can grab onto something, and whether that's through, a book you read, or a quote that you see, or a friend, or a group, or something that just gives you that little rope, to grab, like a little life-saving rope to grab onto, to go, wait a sec, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is something, maybe there is a reason for me. Maybe there is a thing that I need to just, if I could just do this, it'll bridge the gap, and then I'll get to the next step. It's almost like going up a stairway, I think, when you're just one step at a time. Mm-hmm. And to connect, really, it's about connecting back with yourself then, and valuing yourself, and just believing that whatever it is you feel like you need to be in this life, and in this life experience, it's okay to be that. It's okay.
Yeah. And what a fun life. Like when we're kids, one minute we want to be Superman. The next minute we want to be a doctor. The next minute we want to, learn how to like there's always, we're in a openness that as adults we narrow in, and we forget that we can literally do whatever the fuck we want. We can be whatever we want. We can have whatever we want. We can really experience this life however we want to, and become whatever person that we feel like we want to. And a lot of it has to do with showing up to who you are day after day, and whatever that looks like for you. And I think that I think we forget that there was a little person in us that wanted to be Superman, that wanted to be a veterinarian, that wanted to be all of these special things that as an adult we dim down, and we dumb down to I guess I'm going to be an accountant, which is not a bad thing. Accountants, we need accountants. I need an accountant. But
I sure do.
Yeah. An accountant's important. But I'm saying be all of the things that actually make you happy, or why the fuck are you doing any of this? And when you're a kid, you have a really strong grasp of that. You're like, I am going to get on this swing set, and I'm going to fucking swing my ass off right now. And you just go for it. And as an adult, we forget to go for it.
I think so. And that's so funny you say that, because while we've been sitting here talking, and I'm thinking back, and I'm like, you know what? I don't remember ever having one aspiration about wanting to be something when I was a kid. I didn't have that, I'm going to be an artist, or I'm going to be a nurse, or I'm going to be a lawyer. I had none of that. But I definitely was a banshee on the swing set, for sure. I was a queen. This is going to sound, I don't mean it like this, but I was a queen swinger.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, you were. Nothing has changed.
Okay, I was five. Come on. Seriously. But I didn't. Yeah. The first memory that I have of deciding, I think I want to be that, was when I was 14, and I was really into that show, Charlie's Angels, and I thought I wanted to be an angel like that. Yeah. Like a private detective. Yeah.
Right.
For a minute. Right. For a minute, I wanted to do that. And then by the time I was, 17, then I started to know, okay, this is what I want to be or do. But prior to that, when I was a kid, it was just all about what am I gonna do today? Which park and which swing set am I gonna go, hang out on today?
Yeah. Do you remember that movie Gremlins?
No.
Oh my gosh. All right. So your homework is to watch The Gremlins. So The Gremlins is this movie where there's all these little creatures that, as long as they don't get into water, they're really nice creatures. But if they get water touches them, they become these creepy gremlins. And so they're And so there's this one character called Gizmo, who is this cute little fuzzy alien gremlin thing. And so when I was 6 years old, I had one of these gremlins, and I would keep it in my backpack and take it with me everywhere, to school, to kindergarten, to first grade, to second grade, I think even to third grade. And my aspiration in life was that I wanted this gremlin to be like a real life thing that I could show off to people. And like, I was the one. Mm-hmm. You have to watch this movie to understand. I was the one that had this cute little thing that was so adorable. Well, we will watch this together when we're around each other. And so I would pull it out of my backpack, and people were like, "Ooh, what's that?" And I'd be like, No, not now. And I would put it back in the backpack, and I would carry this little thing everywhere with me. And I was sure that this was like my thing. Like, in my life, I was going to be the mother of this like fantastic creature, and that everybody was going to want to see it. But I was going to show them off sometimes, never let them eat after midnight or get wet. There's all these rules to the gremlin.
Wow.
And so I would show them off in class, and I would be like, I have the gremlin. Check it out. And people would be like, oh, because it was a big movie. Oh, and I'd be like, no, don't touch it. It's only mine. And so I had this whole fantasy of having this amazing little creature that was mine. And as I grew into 7, 8 years old, as I grew into 9 and 10, I wanted to be different things, and I had different aspirations. They weren't so fantasy based, but they definitely were still like big to me. They meant something to me. I wanted to be a veterinarian. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a cop. I wanted to try all of these different things. And as we get older, as I'm about to turn 41 years old, I think that I want to make sure that I'm always keeping that same kind of innocence and openness to being gutsy, like Jim Carrey, just being gutsy to whatever comes, and saying, okay, well, now I'm an artist, or now I'm this, and telling the truth all the time, and not getting stuck in somebody else's idea of me.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of his message too, that you hear him talking about is, and by the way, thank you for sharing about your gremlins. I'm picturing your gremlin safely stored away in a box inside your Yahtzee cup. Okay. But anyway, back to Jim and Shirley. Yeah, I think you're right. And part of his thing that you hear him talking about a lot is, Jim, he's not that person. I'm not Jim Carrey. You're not who you are. Nobody is who they are. None of us really exist. And he goes off onto these, really, what's the word? I'll use the word enlightened, ruminations. And so again, though, he's risking people going, he's lost it. He's nuts. He's out there. And if you don't understand, a lot of it is we're limited by our vocabulary to try to explain and define things that are beyond our 100% scope of understanding. So you take a risk when you have an understanding that we don't even have. Most of us have words and language and concepts to really accurately convey, and then you try to do it. You take a risk of being misunderstood, or people just thinking that you're crazy. And I think it's admirable of him to be sharing his spiritual journey, which has included him reinventing himself, or not maybe reinventing, but just living the other dimensions and layers of himself, who he wants to be, what he wants to do. And it is a really cool demonstration, which gives other people permission when they see people doing that, just being whatever, que sera, sera, I'm going to do this now. It gives other people permission to do the same, where before they might have went, oh, I don't know. But when you're bold enough or brave enough to do that, it makes other people go, well, if they could do it, then maybe I could do it. And so you really do not only yourself a service by allowing yourself to express whatever it is, you want to express now, but you are being of service to other people because now they feel like they can do that too. He's an amazing person. And I think that he's a great example for everyone to just go, hey, you know what? He's in his mid to late 50s and he's like, I'm going to be this now. I'm going to do that now. We don't have, there doesn't have to be a stopping point. Once even if you have been an accountant all your life and maybe you've loved it, and then you get to a point where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to do something else. But I think if you have that mentality where, oh yeah, but this is what I've done all my life, and now I'm, at this point, it's too late. That's a real danger point right there when you think, but it's too late for me to do something new or learn something new or do things in a different way. That's where the danger zone is, that so many people fall into that trap.
Agreed. Be bold enough. Be brave enough to be something different. Maybe even tomorrow. Maybe even tomorrow. You're sure today I am in love with this person. This is what my life looks like. I'm super happy. And maybe that all changes tomorrow, Mm-hmm. And that's the adventure of life.
Yeah. And that's what it should be. And it should be, I think if you could look at it like an adventure, and if you could look at it like, a lot of times I look at it as a play. Like, okay, we're all this ensemble cast, and we all are players in each other's like movie. You know what I mean? And it's all just this great big performance that we came together to play this, this game of life and to do these performances. And sometimes it just, I think thinking of things in a different way and even in a more playful way, I think it's helpful to just expand your thinking a little bit and to get us out of sometimes when we get in a rut of getting too serious or too caught up in things that are in the big scheme of things aren't really as important as we make them out to be. It's being courageous enough, being bold enough to walk the walk and talk the talk of who you are, and it might change, and you being open to that. I think that Jim Carrey is a walking, talking version of that, and so many other people are as well. And sometimes we need examples in our life, like you said, of people who are really showing up to how they are, and they're still messy, and they still aren't all of the things that they want to be, and they still are growing. Right. But I don't think you need to be perfect in order to be what you want to be. I think that that's what makes you who you are, is all of the messy stuff, all of the things about you that are just you and nobody else. Yeah. I think we didn't come here for perfection. I think that's where we came from. So we come here to experience everything but perfection. Because it's, that's what life is. It's all of these, these sensory things. So I think you're right. I think doing all those things. I'm open in the opposite
direction too. I'm open to, what is perfection? And maybe this is it. Maybe being messy is perfect. And maybe we are in our best case scenario, even in the moments where we don't feel we are. What is telling us we're not perfect? Our brains, and so is it trustworthy? I don't know. And so I hear what you're saying, and I also like the opposite of that. I like the idea that then there's something else that you could be if you were. And I think that being really, really cool with who you are is your perfection. That's the idea around it.
Yeah, I get that. I think just, can we just take the word perfection out of it? Can we just be? And just being is just fine. And to tap or to add a little tag onto the end of that, being courageous enough to walk your walk and talk your talk. The key part of that is without concern for what anybody else says or thinks. That's where your true freedom lies, with no concern.
Yeah, it's just being your sexy self, no matter what. just waking up and going, yep, this is it, and I'm fucking great.
I'm good, and I'm good with it. I'm okay with it.
I'm good with it. Yep,
I'm okay. That's all that matters, is that I'm okay with it.
I got a backpack full of gremlins, and I'm just gonna do this life.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's probably why I didn't watch that movie, because I am not into, especially when I was younger. Yeah, scary. Anything that would fall into the category
of
scary.
It's not
scary.
scary.
Oh, no. Okay, all right. Well, I thought
change your life. I can't wait for you to watch it. Watch it
all right. I'll watch it now. I'm an adult, and I can process this in a way that isn't gonna scare the crap out of me. Okay, all right, we'll do it. So, okay, Gremlins, you're up, and that's all I got to say about that today. What about you?
I think this has been a wonderful time with you. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you. So, all right then. Hey. Everyone, you can find us on iTunes. So please have our backs. Go there. Give us a rating. Give us some stars. And we'd love to have your feedback. You can also find us on Patreon. And we would love it if you would go there and become part of our Give a Buck movement. I'm not going to spill the beans about it now. Just go check it out, please. Patreon.com. We're Talking Shift Podcast.
And if you would like a private session with Loree Bischoff or myself, you would go to wordtalkingshiftpodcast.com and check us out on Facebook, Instagram, all over the internet. Everybody knows about us at We're Talking Shift Podcast.
Sweet. So y'all go out and have a great day and make some shift happen.
You too, Gary V.
The preceding podcast was a TJ DeSantis production. Comments, questions, and inquiries can be directed to DeSantisProd@gmail.com.